Welcome to What Have We Learned? Incidental learnings from interesting people. I'm Ben Punter. In this episode, it's writer, performer, singer and podcaster Sooz Kempner, who you may have seen during the Edinburgh Fringe 2019 during her show MegaDrive, or at Nick Helm's show, I Think You Stink. She was a performer in that show as well. You can follow her on Twitter. She's at SoozUK, or on Instagram, Sooz Kempner, or one word. The spelling of it is basically the title of this episode. And you can hear her on the Mystery on the Rocks podcast as well, so do check that out where you get your normal podcasts from. Let me know what you end up learning from this episode. I would love to hear from you. I'm at Ben Punter on Instagram and on Twitter, or you can message me via the Facebook page What Have We Learned. So in this episode we talk about stand-up, musicals, imposter syndrome and school singing. This is What Have We Learned with Sooz Kempner. Sooz, welcome to What Have We Learned?
Thanks for having me.
How are you today?
I'm alright, thanks, yeah. The train travel's been on my side, doesn't always happen, but thrilled that it was today.
Yeah. So, MegaDrive was the show at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Yes.
How was that run for you?
It was a great run. Yeah, it's my 7th solo hour, and solo hours at the Fringe can vary throughout the month, and it was lovely every day. There wasn't a single day where I came away from it going, and depressed. Yeah. And that's probably the first time I can say that about a Fringe run. Yeah.
And how long did it take to write that particular show?
I sort of start writing as soon as the previous Edinburgh's finished.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I'm not really writing. I'm not going, right, I'm writing a show now. I have a
break.
Yeah, there's like a notes document on my Mac with tons and tons of ideas. So, and then I'll come back to it and go, why have I written Maroon Renault 19 and won't remember, but it probably wasn't worth remembering.
And how long does an idea like that take to come together?
It really varies again. I mean, I didn't start previewing this show till I think my first preview was March, which is really late for me to start previewing. I've normally done one by the end of January, beginning of February, because I didn't really know. I knew I wanted it to be video games and nostalgia again, which I'd done the previous year, but trying to create a new show that wasn't just a copy of the previous show was a challenge. So yeah, I hope I did that.
What were the kind of hurdles you had to overcome? Because the year before you did Supersonic 90s Kids.
That's right, yeah.
And so what were the kind of hurdles you had to overcome from that year to this year? Because it had a similar theme, but also you need it to be sort of different from it. But it's not the same show again, but it's a new show, but similar theme. So there must be sort of an overlap of ideas. We've done that before.
That's it, yeah. Well, it kind of goes from where I am at that particular point in my career. So in 2018, when I was doing Supersonic 90s Kid, there was this idea of looking back at yourself. I look back at myself as a 13-year-old because it was 20 years since I'd become a teenager. So I was constantly looking back on what I was like at 13. And then in the year that followed, my career trajectory, I'm happy to say, has gone up a little. So and I have terrible imposter syndrome. So I essentially did a show about imposter syndrome, about and looking back about being this really weird, uncertain kid and realising you haven't changed at all. So I get all these good things happen to me and I'm instantly going, well, that shouldn't have happened, and when's it going to go wrong? Yeah. And that's exactly what I did as a kid.
So what does imposter syndrome, how does it manifest itself?
Imposter syndrome, I suppose it's different in different people. For me, I just go, if I get a really lucky break, which, if you hang around in this industry long enough, eventually you'll get lucky at some point. I ended up in a musical written by Richard Thomas, who wrote the Jerry Springer opera.
Okay, yeah.
And I got it because I work a lot on the LGBT cabaret circuit, and they needed a female singer who could sing musical theatre in this show, who didn't look like someone else from the cabaret circuit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I just got in it and I went, well, I didn't have to audition for it. And if I had to audition for it, I definitely wouldn't have got it. And they probably need someone taller, and they probably actually need someone who looks a bit more like a 50s starlet. But, I'm very lucky to be here. It has never occurred to me doing this musical for the past 2 years that maybe I'm the right person for the job.
So it's a sense of I don't deserve this, but
someone's going to find out. Someone's going to find out.
Yeah.
and you're constantly, I'm like, all the characters in Goodfellas constantly looking over my shoulder waiting to see who's going to not kill me but tell everybody that she doesn't belong here.
No, I get this. I do kind of get a sense of that myself when I'm doing this kind of like podcasting been going for ages. You like. What are you doing here now?
Oh,
like,
no.
No. Like, and you're not an interviewer. Like, oh no. Like, okay, cool. Here you go.
You are an interviewer.
Have all the equipment back. It's fine. It's yours now. So, in the show, you sort of pick apart your own gaming history.
Yeah.
What is sort of, for those who didn't see the show, what's sort of the pinnacle games?
Pinnacle of gaming for me, the Sonic series. I was the exact right age when that came out. I was sort of 6, 7, 8 when the Sonic series was at its absolute height, and it's over 25 years. I can still go back and play those games, and for me it doesn't really get any better because you can just hold right to win. I'm not going to get lost.
So were there any kind of games that were kind of pinnacle in your childhood but they didn't make the show?
Going back to like the late 90s, so when I was in my teens, I loved the Tomb Raider games.
Yep.
So, and I think I'd mentioned them briefly in the show the year before, but they didn't make this show because it was so much about the early 90s, this year's show. But yeah, I feel like I could do a whole show on the Tomb Raider games.
There was a bit in the show, wasn't there, about Tomb Fraser?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah. Oh yeah, well remembered. I forgot that, and I did the show 2 days ago. Yeah, there was.
It's put in there as like this joke doesn't make it anywhere, but I need to show it.
I made it, and when basically I put Fraser Crane's head on Lara Croft's body and just go, Tomb Fraser. I made it thinking, I'll find a place for this, and then I'll make the crap Photoshop a bit better, and I never did, but I just kept it in the show anyway because I'm a hack from way back.
Do you play much gaming now?
Yeah, look, I play a lot of early 90s puzzle games, like Columns, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. I sit, if I've got a day off, I will put the news on, BBC News Channel, and sit there all day getting angry about it while playing Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine and occasionally writing.
So my own little history, because I did a little article once about, I bought an Xbox when I was 30, and I kind of thought, why am I buying this now? Why have I not done like a whole history of like, why didn't I play? I never bought a PlayStation. I never really I had my brother's Sega.
Okay.
So how have I gone from there to this? And I was like, I wanted to track my own history, and I was like looking through it, and like, we had the Amiga.
Oh yeah, Amiga 500.
Amiga 500.
I had one of those secondhand. Bought it in a Friday ad.
Spectrum before that, and then just a PC in between. And so the games were like Cannon Fodder and Command and Conquer. Yeah. And Star Wars Dark Forces.
Okay.
Which I loved. It was my so it was this. So when I saw the show, advertised at the Fringe, I was like, "Oh, you have my attention."
Right.
So I'll sit there and I'll go through all the shows, and it's a weird way of picking. It's almost like kind of getting through to like the second stage, and the second stage is you need the right name and you need a good poster. And if you make it through the second stage, okay, you're on the saved list.
Oh, thank you.
We'll see. Because my Fringe habits are terrible in that I will go. My first year I went, it was 2017, and I just booked the entire time out for like six shows a day.
Yeah.
You go see a show and you go, well done, clap, clap, clap.
Yeah.
Out the door, straight down, and you're going to the next venue. You haven't got time to process it.
It gets to the point where you're like, I can't laugh anymore.
No.
My brain can tell that that's funny, but my face can't laugh. Yeah.
You've done the joke like that, but they did it slightly differently, which means you go, okay, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Also, in the show, you talk about in MegaDrive, you talk about singing in school assembly.
Yeah.
And it was from what type of school was it? It was
just a really bog standard state primary school, quite a secular school. We weren't a religious school or anything.
Because that generated a whole conversation between me and friends about we've all grown up in different parts of London, and we all had that same kind of experience.
Yes.
But my one for school singing, it was I think it was a Roman Catholic school, but I think religion was kind of like it's a Roman Catholic school, but
you learn about it, but whatever.
But our ones were Kumbaya.
Okay, yeah, we had Kumbaya. Yeah.
My Old Man's a Dustman.
We had to sing that.
Which makes no sense.
There's a bit that I cut from the show about our headmaster used to get us to sing. When it was his turn to run assembly, we'd all sing Chaz and Dave songs.
Oh no!
We were singing Snooker Loopy. We had to sing. Oh, and Mrs. Johnson used to play them on the piano, very austere, and you could tell she really hated playing these. We had to sing, he's football crazy, he's football mad, and that's got a line in it where it goes, he kicked his wife out of bed and swore it was a goal. It's like, why was Mr. Lee needing a group of 7-year-olds to sing that to him?
The other one was Max Bygrave's I'm a pink toothbrush, you're a blue toothbrush.
Oh, right, okay.
Which makes, like, we're all like, okay, now it's time to sing sort of our daily hymns.
Yeah.
Like, oh my,
yeah.
hey! It just makes, like, I think that's just the thing about going to school in London. Just like, no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't
we had
matter.
to sing, right said Fred, have another cup of tea.
I think we did that one as well.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's
Why
really
are a group
weird.
of kids singing it? It's quite complicated as well. Why are we having to sing it?
Yeah, like they booked out this time. Like, well, we got them.
Yeah.
Let's make them sing, whatever. What's easy to play?
Yeah.
Chaz and Dave, Mile Munted Husband, that'll be fine.
Right, yeah.
So is that it now for MegaDrive?
Yeah, I think so, unless I had a bit of industry in, and it may be that they produce it elsewhere. I'd like to, because I really enjoyed doing the show, and what I started out writing, going, oh, this is work, it's just work, became like something that I'm really happy with. I really like the show.
But the show is also the show's like an interesting progression of hobbies and interests, because you started doing Sondheim musicals, and then you've done characters and then film shows, and now you've been doing sort of 2 years of gaming. It's almost that there's a progression of diving deeper into your own personal interests.
Yeah, and always managing to keep, they all link up. Like, my first show was called Defying Gravity. It was about trying to get in Wicked, and I never have. And so, but I really sing in my shows. Like, there's, I still sing in that musical theatre style, even though it's a show about gaming. Like, last year's show heavily featured Les Mis alongside Sonic, and you'd be amazed at the crossover of people who liked both. It blew me away.
So what do you think might be next? Would it be, how deep does the hobby interest dive now?
I feel like there is a show based around PlayStation and Tomb Raider.
Okay.
I feel like that could, and because it always then comes back to me personally and how it's affected me personally. So I it's early days, obviously we're at the beginning of October, but I can see that it's germinating. There's something about being a woman in gaming that I've covered in both shows, and I can certainly link that to Lara Croft.
Oh, cool. And so for those who have never been to the Fringe before and are considering going, but they don't know the whole booking process or venue process, what's kind of like, what needs to be kind of said about it? What needs to be told about, if you're going to do a show and you need to book a venue and you've not been before, what are the top tips and stuff? Well,
starting looking for your venue starts like repulsively early. End of November, December, you want to be looking for your venue. If you've got a lot of money, then you can get a paid venue probably more easily than you can get what I would call a good free venue, because they get snapped up real fast. I mean, it took me till my 6th solo hour to get what I would call a decent free venue. So I'd been in paid venues prior to that, scraping together the money to cover it, and then
bucket at the door.
Well, no, not even, because it was a paid venue. So it was all ticketed, and you sell hardly any tickets because you're an absolute nobody. But doing that year after year and losing all that money meant that last year I finally was offered what was a really nice, location-wise and atmosphere-wise, really nice free venue, which I was in then 2 years running. So when you're off to do your first show, I would advise free Fringe. Don't take a time slot between 7 and 10 in the evening, because you're up against all the TV names. And if you're new to the Fringe, you're probably not a TV name. Don't go really late at night if you do your nice personal stand-up show, because you're just wrangling drunks and you're going to have a horrible time. Don't be afraid of the afternoon. A lot of people first going to the Fringe go, okay, well, I need 9 p.m. I've done 1 p.m. the last 2 years, and it was awesome. Like, there's always people around. They come in, you're the first show they see before lunch. So basically, sort of anywhere between 12:30 and 6, that's your time slot you want. Be prepared to flyer a lot. And my tip with flyering is exit flyer shows similar to yours. Go to make your little diary and go and exit fly shows that are similar to yours. So on their way out, you can be going more stuff about, 70s movies, more stuff about comic books, whatever, and apply to them as soon as possible and have a good idea of what your show is going to be like when you apply.
How early is as soon as possible in the
sort of December?
Oh, December.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
yeah, December, November, December, January. They open their bookings at different times.
So it's a question I've asked everyone who I've spoken to who's been performing at the Fringe. What makes Edinburgh so special?
Oh, I think it just comes down to the history of Edinburgh. The fact that it's the biggest arts festival in the world. The fact that the city's infrastructure is not built to carry the amount of people who now flood to the Fringe every year to hawk their wares and be self-indulgent for the month. I don't know, there's something about the fact you can't get down the pavement that you wouldn't get if the festival was in London.
No.
So yeah, I think just the whole atmosphere makes Edinburgh really electric. I'd have total FOMO if I didn't go back.
And you did a lot of... You did MegaDrive, but also did a lot of other little shows as well.
Yeah, I was playing piano in a brilliant comic Lucy Frederick's show because I wrote a song which was her finale for her show, so I'd play for her each day. So that was fun. And I was also in a musical called I Think You Stink, which
Nick Helm.
Yeah, written, directed and starring Nick Helm. And it's like a horror pastiche review show, and yeah, we were all in. It was me and other comedians in that, including like Rob Kemp, who wrote The Elvis Dead. And yeah, we had a great time in doing that every night. But it did mean I had like a 12-hour day.
So how did you get involved with Nick Helm?
I think I just know him from the comedy circuit. Yeah, I've been doing comedy over 10 years. He's been going slightly longer than that, I think. And he needed comedians who could sing. I can't remember when I first. I can't remember our first meeting, but yeah, I've known him for years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so you said you've been doing comedy for 10 years, and also you studied at the Royal Academy of Music.
Yeah.
And you've been doing comedy for 10 years. When was the overlap of, when did it start bleeding into the music?
Okay. Well, basically, I always wanted to try stand-up, and I'd been trying to get into drama school for 3 years on the trot, hadn't got into any. And I'd gone away and done various contracts, but I knew my career wasn't going to move any further unless I went to drama school. So I tried one more year and I got into Royal Academy of Music, which was my dream get, and I got in. And I had 6 months before I went, and I went, now's the time to do stand-up. Because it doesn't matter if you try it and it's not for you, you're still going to drama school. Because my big fear of being I'd try it wasn't for me. And I tried it, and unfortunately it was for me. I liked it very much indeed. And I carried on doing it for 10 years. And I guess there's always been the overlap. Like, I wouldn't be in this musical that's written by Richard Thomas, this Brexit musical we've been doing for 2 years. I wouldn't have gotten that without being a stand-up. Equally, I wouldn't have gotten it without being a trained singer, musical theatre performer. Yeah.
So who are you? Do you have like musical icons or heroes?
Yeah, Bernadette Peters, Patti LuPone. Yeah. That doesn't get any better for me. All the Sondheim ladies, basically.
And then in comedy?
In comedy, what, like a musical comedy hero?
Well, comedy hero and then musical comedy hero.
Okay, I've got some really cliched ones. Stuart Lee, Joan Rivers, Josie Long is. I think she's amazing. As far as musical comedy heroes, I've got quite an unlikely one. It's Sarah Silverman.
Okay.
Who, in her Jesus is Magic show, there were like musical interludes, and she's a really gifted performer musically. She's a genuinely really good singer. So I think of her as a musical comedian, even though I'm sure that's not how a lot of people see her.
I've never heard anyone say Joan Rivers before.
Oh, really?
No.
I thought that was a real cliche because she's such a trailblazer.
I'm wondering, what is it about Joan?
So unapologetic.
True.
And maybe there were times where an apology was warranted, but there's something admirable about the fact that in that documentary she did, I think she makes fun of Helen Keller. And somebody stands up and goes, I have a deaf child. And she's like, I didn't make your kid deaf. Who gives a shit? And there have been times where people have been hurt and offended in audiences where I've gone, no, I'm with them actually. I'm with them. But on that occasion I went, no, why does Joan Rivers have to apologise to you? She wasn't talking about your child. Also, you were sat there laughing at everything else.
Yeah.
But as soon as she went, oh, Helen Keller couldn't hear you, they went, I have a deaf child. Like, yeah.
That's sort of unapologetic sort of confidence as well on stage.
Yeah,
just that sort of
and she
appeals.
wasn't an asshole to them. She just went, what do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, I'm a comedian. That's what I do. That's what I do.
It. Yeah.
I've written in bold here, horrible question.
Okay.
Your shows are a fusion of music and comedy. What
Yeah.
would you get a bigger thrill from, music or comedy?
Oh, wow. Sometimes one, sometimes the other.
Okay.
If I do a stand-up gig or I do my full show, and afterwards a comedian says to me, oh, you're a good singer. I go, I feel like I've failed. I feel like I've failed because I go, well, yeah, but you don't know anything about singing. Is it funny? Whereas if I do a musical, like a musical comedy, which this Brexit musical I've been doing is, it's a comedy musical. If someone afterwards goes, oh, you're funny, I feel like I've failed. I'm like, but the singing. So it's a weird one.
It's the notion of having to explain that they go together. This is what I do. They go together.
All they're giving you a compliment. Take the compliment. But my imposter syndrome means I go, but I must have failed. What they're saying is you're bad at comedy. What they're saying is you're bad at singing.
So
and they're not saying either.
So how do you maintain the voice as well?
My singing voice, training. I don't smoke. I'm not a heavy drinker. I don't do any drugs. I'm pretty square. I steam a lot. I have a steamer which looks like a Victorian bong. It's called a Dr. Nelson's inhaler, which I advise any performer to get. If you're doing a run at the Edinburgh Fringe, I will always get someone say to me, I'm losing my voice, what do? I go, buy a Dr. Nelson's inhaler. They're amazing. So I steam a lot. If I hear my voice is starting to go and I don't have to speak or sing that night, I won't be, if a friend goes, let's go out, I won't go out because I can hear my voice is in trouble. I know what it will be like the next day when I do have to sing. And also, like, this is what you train to do. Like my postgrads in musical theatre, so much of it was about vocal health, understanding your voice, maintaining your voice, and also finding ways around it. If it, like, there are vocally damaging jobs, there's ways to make it easier for yourself. Like, I will always get to the end of the Fringe and scrape my way through the last 3 shows vocally, because also I've stopped caring a bit by then. You want to go out till 2 with these comedians you've been enjoying all month. So I did that a few times. I just wasn't getting out of my brain drunk. But you wake up the next day, you're a bit husky and you go, it's fine, I know how this show goes. It was muscle memory.
Yeah, it's just 2 more, it'll be fine.
I was really counting them. I remember ringing my mum and going, I'm into single figures.
So obviously singer, writer, stand-up and actress, and then also podcaster.
Oh yeah, podcast. I'm recording one today actually.
Oh yeah?
I do a podcast called Mystery on the Rocks. It wasn't my idea. It was comedian Chris Stokes, who's been on like the BBC Hot 100 list, and he's written for BBC and some stuff that I've been in. And he's a brilliant comedian. He, with another brilliant comedian and writer, Masood Mullis, they came up with this idea for a podcast where Masood, who's a big cocktailier, he would make cocktails. He'd make very fine cocktails. And Chris is fascinated by unsolved mysteries, true crime mysteries, missing persons, X-Files types mysteries where there's no one knows what happened, but these people just disappeared, but then they return 30 years later. So he covers all that. Masood makes cocktails, and while we drink and listen to the mystery and throw in our theories, I'm writing a song which I perform at the keyboard at the end, which is, I'm always the dunce who doesn't know what the mystery is, and I'm learning about it as we go. And we have a comedian guest on every week. Had like Nick Helm, Nish Kumar. Yeah.
It's Mystery on the Rocks, and you can get it everywhere, right? Yeah,
Mystery on the Rocks is available everywhere.
And so finally, it's a segment. It's a new segment which I've had to write it down.
Okay.
So it's the previous guest ask a question to the current guest.
Oh, that's fun. Okay. Yeah.
I don't have a proper name for it. I mean, that's the best name I got for it.
Yeah.
Someone said like Comedy Connection might be a nice.
Yeah, Comedy Connection works.
One.
Yeah.
Or my favourite one is that idea from Radio 4's Chain Reaction. That's basically exactly what it is.
I see. Well, a good idea is a good. What is it in Spinal Tap? A good idea is a good idea forever. There you go.
That's true. That's true. So the question for you comes from Comedians podcast Stuart Goldsmith.
Oh, I like Stu. Great.
Here's Stuart's question for you.
Great.
Hello, Sue. Stu Goldsmith here. It was great fun meeting you and working with you on Rob Deering's show Beat This earlier this year. I suppose my question for you, I think I said this to you at the time, you're someone who... you're massive in my social media feed. I don't know you personally that well, but because I've engaged with your very funny Facebook posts in the past, you're one of those people that Facebook repeatedly shoves into my face. Who are I welcome it. Who are your equivalent people? Maybe ones that I would know, or comedians, people that I might possibly know, who you find are artificially given presence within your social media without you knowing them that well.
Okay. From Twitter, Rob Delaney.
Okay.
And Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds Ryan Reynolds and Rob Delaney have the most consistently brilliant Twitter feeds I've ever seen. Who knew that Ryan Reynolds was the funniest tweeter of our generation? Trying to think, who else am I always... Oh, Lou Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
Lou Sanders, who I've only met a handful of times, but she must think I'm some kind of stalker, because everything she tweets, I'm like, oh, that's brilliant, retweet. She's awesome. And Stuart Goldsmith, of course.
Yeah. Also, speaking of imposter syndrome from earlier,
yeah,
and I'm talking about how I feel like I'm a fake doing this. A little snippet of Stu in this podcast. I'm like, what a brilliant question!
That is a great question.
What way to show me up with a brilliant question from the past? Thanks, Stu. But never thank you, Stu, for that question.
I'm trying to think if there are any others. Henry Zabrowski,
Mm-hmm.
He's great. He's really good and he's one of my favourite podcasters as well. Yeah.
Sooz, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to Sooz for this episode. Do check out the Mystery on the Rocks podcast, we can get at all good podcasting platforms, and you can follow her on social media, Instagram, Sooz Kempner, all one word, or on Twitter at SoozUK. Let me know what you have learnt from this episode. I would love to hear from you, and also any suggestions for possible future guests that I should speak to as well. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Punter, that's me, hello. And you can message me via the Facebook page, What Have We Learnt? So, what have we learnt? We've learned that imposter syndrome can be a feeling that you don't belong in something that you've actually earned. At the Fringe, don't overbook, you won't have time to even laugh. A strong show name and standout poster will definitely get you attention. Look for your venue early, particularly around November or December. You'll be celebrating when your remaining shows are down to single digits. If you're doing your first show, go for the free Fringe. 7 till 10 p.m. most evenings will be mostly TV names, and really late night, you'll just be a drunk wrangler. And flying out shows similar to your own. Also, we learned that a person that makes cocktails is a cocktailier. When you're playing Sonic the Hedgehog, just hold right all the way and you'll win. And a good idea is a good idea forever.